everyone, and welcome back to the Just Interesting podcast. The podcast that's not too boring. It's not too interesting either. It's it's just fine, really. It's good times all around.
Okay.
It will get you through the next hour, and that's all that matters, really.
Wow.
Well, this week I thought we would discuss the biggest lies ever told in history.
Ooh.
But before that, we need to talk about some of the things we learned this week. And then after that, we'll be going through our favorite comments on the YouTube this week. Joining me today, as always, well, actually not as always, we had a guest on last week. Robin's back this week. Robin,
hello.
how are you?
I am well, thank you. Thank you for having Chris on in my stead as I have my repairs done.
Well, thank you to Chris for stepping in. And,
it was great.
Yeah.
It was nice to see him again. It's been a while.
It was lovely seeing Chris, yeah. And if you're watching or listening to this, make sure you go over and check out 101 Facts. I'm sure they've probably uploaded a new video since last week's podcast. So
great channel. Great YouTube channel. Really good.
It's a fantastic channel, yeah. Martin, how are you this week?
Hello. Yeah, no, not bad. I mean, we talked about this a little bit before, didn't we? We said, how's everyone's week's been? And we didn't really have anything to say. And I mean, since then, about 15 minutes ago, I still don't have too much to say. It's been a fine week. Fine,
Almost the definition of no news is good news.
Well, I've got good news for both of you because Surfshark has been kind enough to sponsor this week's episode of the podcast. How amazing is that? We've got sponsors. Everything's official now. Everything's coming up Millhouse. But no, Surfshark is a fantastic VPN service, and I'm so happy that they've chosen to sponsor our podcast because Surfshark is actually the service that I use as my VPN service.
Hey.
And I can, on a personal level, I thoroughly recommend them. Every time I start my PC, it's on and it's working, it's in the background, and I know what it's doing. I haven't seen an ad on my computer in years, Martin and Robin. It's essential. It's basically an essential item for me at this point.
So it's not just a VPN, but it's an ad blocker as well.
You can block ads. You can access different deals in different countries with the VPN service. You can get onto 30 different Netflix versions. With all the different 30 different versions of Netflix in every different country around the world. They've got over 3,200 servers, so you know that this is a fast, reliable service. And best of all, Martin, it costs less than a cup of coffee per month for our listeners. Ooh. Because if they go to surfshark.deals/interesting and use the promo code interesting, they get this right, okay, they get 83% off, okay, 83%
That's huge
off.
Discount. Specific. I like it.
That's an insane deal.
So it goes from a tenner a month to what, just over a quid?
£1.59
£1.59, which is about $2 a month.
$2.21 per month, which is, it's crazy. That's like, you wouldn't even notice that coming out of your account. True. And it's so worthwhile. It's something I think that everyone should have. Other great things about Surfshark, they've got a strict no logs policy, meaning your privacy is going to be kept safe and they're not going to be keeping your personal information. So there can be no data leaks or anything. You know that if you sign up with Surfshark, your data is protected. They've got industry-leading encryption, which shields your online moves. Whatever you're doing online, I'm not here to judge, but it's safe. It's encrypted. Don't worry. And there's automatic kill switches, which disables your internet connection if your VPN connection drops. So it's just that extra little bit of security. So you know that whatever you're doing is going to be secure and it's going to be kept safe online. But it gets even better than that because not only is it £1.59 per month, at the end of it, you get 3 months extra for free on top of that. This is just, it's just
83% off and 3 months for free.
It's insane, yeah. So thank you again so much to Surfshark for sponsoring this week's podcast. Just a quick reminder that you go over to surfshark.deals/interesting and enter the promo code interesting for 83% off this plan. Anyway, guys, let's move on with the podcast. Let's jump into it. Martin, what did you learn this week?
Well, I learned about 3 quite brutal murders that took place.
Whoa, opening strong. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And they took place in a small town in Macedonia.
Okay.
Between 2003 and 2005, I believe. And And so, yeah, these three women were unfortunately raped, molested, and murdered in pretty horrible ways in this town. And and the story was reported on by various journalists at the time. Of course, as you know, as we know, there are lots of different murder stories and with graphic details are often. And these bodies were discovered wrapped in plastic bags and dumped and discarded around this town called Kisivo, which is a town in southwest Macedonia.
Yeah.
And they were older women. There's two were in their 60s and one was in their 70s. And the funny thing about this was that when it was being reported on, there were certain details that came out within these journalist news reports that perhaps the journalists reporting on the story shouldn't have known about.
Oh,
and there were details that the police chose not to release, like the fact that the killer used a particular type of phone cord as his signature weapon to kill these women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he knew that they tied up the bodies, and also that he knew about the orders in which they detailed the orders in which the murders took place. And so, as you may have guessed by now, it turns out that the murderer was in fact a journalist reporting on the murders themselves.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it Jake Gyllenhaal?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
From Nightcrawler.
Yes. Pretty similar. And so this bloke, he was called Vlado Teneski, and he worked for the local newspaper in this town where the murders took place. And it turns out that he in fact was the murderer, and he was a father of two. And in 2008, when he had been caught and found out that he revealed to be the murderer and he'd been charged, he took his own life.
Oh.
Which is kind of I was going to say a sad end, but it's not particularly sad.
Not satisfying though.
It's sad in the sense that there was no justice served. In
exactly.
A way. That's horrible. So was his main motive for doing this just to get a good news story, or was that like he was a murderer and he just happened to be a journalist report? Like it just happened to work out.
I think so.
He wanted to kill people, and
I imagine
it was also made his job easier.
I imagine there was a little bit of a sociopathic tendency here. There must have been to want to write about the story. He could have avoided the story if he wanted to, and being able to kind of relay this news and kind of a lot of serial killers especially like to kind of relive the murders, don't they?
Yeah.
And relive it in other people. So to be able to give these details and to have that kind of power over how the story is shared, I imagine had a part to play in what he was doing. But it turned out that the person reporting on it was caught because he just couldn't help giving away certain details that he shouldn't have known about.
That's fascinating. That's such
interesting.
a good.
That is a fascinating.
Such a good
story.
plot. I'm surprised I haven't seen that in fiction before, let alone a dramatization of this particular case. They probably have done it in Macedonian TV and film, but not over here.
Not here.
Well, I haven't actually. Admittedly, I haven't actually seen the film. But is it not kind of similar to Nightcrawler? Isn't that
the idea behind Nightcrawler? Is that he
to
gets too close to the stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Nightcrawler.
I don't think
but Nightcrawler, he doesn't kill.
He doesn't go as far. Yeah, as far as actually being the criminal himself.
Well, yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not gonna spoil it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just speculating on a film that I haven't actually seen, so that's good.
It's the best kind of.
Yeah, but that's an interesting story, though. That's a fascinating case.
What did you learn?
How about you, Robin? Right.
Sorry.
I can go.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a bit of a more light-hearted fact, actually, so
Okay.
I'll go for mine after that one. So I learned that every year the Library of Congress's National Film Registry picks 25 films every year to preserve in the National Film Registry as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. So it's a film that's dedicated to, it's of national importance, and it's good to preserve it for cultural, historical significance. And in 2020, the list that came out recently, Shrek was on there. I just thought that was interesting that Shrek was on there.
But it is.
Wow.
And I totally agree with that decision. That it really was, wasn't it? It's well deserved to be on the list.
It was a moment.
What do you think?
100%. I mean, culturally significant.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Why not? Well, I'm interested to see what else is on the list in other years. That's what I'm interested in. To see if it was actually a kind of a deviation from what they usually put on the list.
Well, no, because there are other films that they've put in the registry that I think you would think, oh, what, that? But also, this is coming 20 years after its release, which you have to have made an impact for 20 years after the release to be considered for the registry.
But also, it's strange because of the 2020 list, like there are films there there's one from 1918 and the 1920s on the list that they've only just decided needs to be preserved, whereas Shrek, that made the list after like 20 years. That's, but also on the list is The Hurt Locker, Dark Knight. Dark Knight, what do you think about that? That's kind of understandable. Maybe. And then there's a bunch of films that I haven't heard of before. A Clockwork Orange is on the same list as Shrek.
That's surprising. I would have thought that would be a lot sooner.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
But it's interesting either way.
Very interesting.
But yeah,
Shrek is love. Shrek is life. Is that the quote?
Do you think the memes sold it?
I think they are culturally significant, definitely.
I mean, I'm looking forward to episode 3. That'll be a real celebration when that makes it onto the list, based solely on the memes.
Episode 3?
Yeah.
Oh, Shrek 3.
No. Sorry, Star Wars episode 3.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to say Shrek the Third.
No, Shrek the Third should never.
You might be waiting a while.
Never go there. Never go there. Yeah.
Is it Shrek as a franchise, or is it the first?
Just the first one,
movie.
Yeah.
It says Shrek 2001, so I'm just guessing it's the first one.
Yeah,
That's the first one.
Good film.
They only need to preserve once you've seen the first one.
You've seen them all.
They don't need to historically preserve the rest.
The others have been thrown in a bin.
Maybe Shrek the last 10 minutes of Shrek 2.
Oh, I see.
Oh, come on, that's the best bit of the franchise.
I think the whole of Shrek 2 is good. I like the whole thing.
Shrek 2 is good.
Whole thing.
Shrek 3 is worth
Shrek 2 is
not
good.
worth really saying too much about it.
I've seen that film more times than I should, and each time I had the same reaction, which is this a film? Is this a film? Does this count?
Is this reality?
What am I watching right now? Yeah,
it's such a like a shift from the second, like the first and second film in terms of quality. It was
massive.
It was just crazy.
Massive drop. Yeah.
It is mad. It is mad. I mean, Shrek. I've seen them all a number of times now. Having a young daughter, she went through a phase of just been like Shrek, and so of course I had to watch them all. I couldn't just watch the first one over and over again. But yeah, I mean the order is definitively for me 1, 2, 4, 3 now.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
Okay,
fair enough. I haven't seen the fourth one, but I'm sure.
Oh, it's good.
I would probably match that as well.
Yeah, it might be 2 or 1. At my top of the list.
Yes, decent.
I haven't watched them for a long time though. I'll have to watch them again at some point.
Definitely. Well, Robin, what did you learn this week? Like bringing it back to the podcast away from Shrek.
Well,
Shrek was the part of the podcast, mate. That was your.
Shrek.
Come on. Let's move away from Shrek. I know you guys want to talk about it all the time, but
every day, every
we
week, we suggest this. Martin and I let's talk about Shrek, and Alex is like, nah, let's not talk about Shrek every week. But I was learning. This was a real delight for me to discover something through another medium, and that was a board game. I was playing a board game the other day, which took as its theme the town of Circleville in Ohio. And I've never heard of this. Have you heard of Circleville in Ohio?
No.
I haven't, no.
So
what's Ohio?
Circleville takes its name from its layout. In 1810, one of the first instances of town planning in America, they built a town essentially from nothing around a mound called a Hopewell Mound, and it's one of many Hopewell mounds around America, and they're all part of this very ancient Native American pre-Columbian culture that existed, and of which there are not many traces, but these mounds are one of them. kind of fortified spaces where these people lived. Anyway, so the town of Circleville, Ohio, in 1810 was built in a concentric pattern around this mound. And the idea was to preserve the mound for posterity, for historical purposes. So they built a courthouse at the center, and then with circular roads around it, going out in concentric circles, you had houses, you had a jail, you had the government office, you had schools, you had a church, and you had shops, all built. And it formally incorporated as a town in 1814. But, as we all know, America is famous for its gridiron street patterns, and it wasn't long before the people who lived there, who were all European-American settlers, by the way, got a bit annoyed by this circular, curved streets, because it didn't go well with their square buildings. So in 1837, they requested permission to remake the town plan, and the Circleville Squaring Company was founded in 1838. And they literally destroyed and reconstructed all the streets into a squared grid.
It's made it boring.
Yeah, and they destroyed the mound.
Wow.
So,
great.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks. That really sucks. Yeah.
You've got rid of your USP.
It's what, like when I've spoken to American friends I know and acquaintances who've come to London, they're always like, the streets are so amazing because they're not in any kind of structure. Like you can get lost in the streets. And that's such an amazing thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's bloody annoying if you. I imagine if you're a tourist and you just literally get lost, it must be terrible. Well, yeah. But there's that uniqueness, isn't there? You can walk up a street and then it kind of opens up into an area that you never knew would have existed there because there's no sign that it would have been there. Like there's lots of what are they called? It's like park squares in London where you go through like through an alleyway and then you're suddenly in a park. You're like, what the hell? Why is this here? It doesn't make any sense. And I love that about it. And then kind of Circleville, even though those concentric circles, of course, are very uniform, there's something about it that just makes it a little bit more exciting to be there.
Yeah.
Squares.
Very true. Yeah. I mean, I kind of like understand. Imagine if you're traveling like from one side of the town to the other, there is a big thing like right in the middle. So you could just go straight there, but you've got to go all the way around. I kind of get the annoyance there. But,
horrendously impractical.
But you chose to live there. You chose to come across. So
that's kind of the same.
What you can play.
It's kind of the same anyway. Yeah, there's always a big thing in the middle. You're just fooling yourself with these grids. Just fooling yourself.
I mean, yeah. Like Edinburgh is so hilly. It's crazy hilly, but you can just get on a bus. I suppose they can do that. There you go. That's fine. Yeah. Maybe if buses didn't exist, I'd want to destroy Edinburgh Castle, but
turn it into a grid.
Whoa. The police will be kicking down your door any second.
Yeah, Englishman, and then the Scottish Sun or whatever will have a headline tomorrow saying Englishman threatens to destroy Edinburgh Castle.
English YouTuber arrested on terrorism charges.
He's only been here for a few months. He's already trying to destroy our landmarks.
No. I said I might have wanted to if buses weren't a thing, but thankfully buses are a thing. So.
Go for buses. Otherwise, I would destroy the castle.
The castle's fine. Oh, that's a really interesting story, though. Thank you, Robin.
Well, thank you.
Circleville. We'll have to go on a trip there, see what it's like.
It's pretty square now, I think.
Yeah.
Holiday in Circleville.
Yeah. This is where Circleville used to be. Now it's just another square.
Sad times.
Yeah. Don't be square. Go to Circleville. That's what they can use that in their advertising.
That's a good one.
For the town.
They should pay you royalties for that.
They can have that for free.
You keep on forgetting it's no longer a circle, though. It's now a square. Maybe we should have a petition to change it back into a circle. Maybe we should do that. And use that slogan as the campaign slogan.
Yeah. I think that's a priority, to be honest. I don't think there's any more important things going on in the world.
No, yeah.
Make Circleville circle again.
With the concentric circles, would the most important people live near the middle?
I guess so.
The biggest houses, the town. I guess the town hall must be near the middle. But like,
it kind of sounds like Atlantis.
Yeah, actually, like the classic design of Atlantis. Yeah, actually, yeah.
With the circles and the rich people live in the middle, and then they get poorer as they go on.
Yeah.
With the palace at the center. Is Circle Town Atlantis? Just throwing out there.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Atlantis Found is the thumbnail for this 5-minute section of the podcast.
Shall we have a look at some of our favorite comments from this week?
Yes. Well, I've got a slightly longer comment from Tracy Simonic, I think. Sorry, Tracy, if I've mispronounced your name. And it was on the last week's podcast with our special guest, Chris, and you were discussing time travelers. Possible time travels caught on camera. Are they real? Are they really time travelers? Whatever. But clearly you're talking about, it was at the point where you were talking about the likelihood of it and why, if people are time traveling, why we haven't met them yet and why they haven't announced themselves. And Tracy says, it's just so obvious why we don't know time travelers are visiting. By the time we've invented time travel, we will have invented invisibility. I think time travelers are obliged to use invisibility tech when visiting the past. Maybe if that tech glitches or breaks down, we think they're ghosts. But that was
that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, they don't even need to have invented anything else, surely. They've got a time machine. If they make a mistake and someone sees them, they could go back even further.
No, that's a really good point, yeah.
Kill the parents of whoever saw them.
They can time travel indefinitely to fix the mistakes they make.
Maybe.
Unless the butterfly effect is a thing, in which case,
that would soon just turn to absolute chaos.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting thought there. Interesting thought.
Thank you, Tracy.
Or maybe they have those Men in Black devices that can erase people's memories.
Yes.
I mean,
that's like the Men in Black.
Okay, off-topic question, but which do you think is more likely to be invented first? A neuralizer or invisibility cloak?
Neuralizer.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know, actually. Well, neuralizer, has that kind of already been invented? Do they have anything that can do that? Erase short-term memory? Just go for a minor operation.
Just smack you in the head, yeah.
Concussion, I think. Yeah, that's the... I suppose, in theory, you could simulate the effects of concussion with some kind of device.
I mean, the invisibility thing's interesting too, because there have been kind of invisibility boards made, right, where people have basically come up with I don't know what it was, like some kind of big plastic type board that's see-through that actually kind of imitates invisibility.
And I reckon there's a lot of like military tech that we don't know about that's kind of gone a long way in the whole invisibility area.
Because the whole principle of just refracting the light with using a camera from one side to project the image onto the other side, that's the essence of like, if they can get the technology to that level, then you've got it. You've nailed invisibility. Yeah. In fact, I think I saw a documentary about an invisible car presented by Pierce Brosnan, I think. It had all kinds of cool features. It could do... It wasn't just invisible. It could do other stuff too. Yeah.
I remember it driving out of an ice palace.
I think Madonna was presenting that one, right?
Yeah, Madonna provided the music, I think. Yeah.
Nice.
Great film. Documentary.
Shut up before I start crying. That was an awful film. We'll die another day. But anyway, could you have it so that if someone has this invisibility cloak, as it were, that there would be no slip-ups? I know they've said ghosts, and that could be an explanation for people slipping up and being seen. But surely someone would just kind of slip out of this invisibility cloak and you'd be like, oh,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think...
it's too risky. It's too risky.
I think the comments, Tracy's comments did actually spark little conversation. So, we'll have to dive in and get involved.
Indeed. Well, I've got a lovely comment from Adam Barnett. And if this is the Adam Barnett I'm thinking of, thank you so much, Adam. And Adam says, this is a criminally underrated channel, never a shit episode. So thank you so much, Adam.
That is amazing.
Thank you so much for your support as well.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah.
Really, really appreciate it.
You. That's lovely. That's
Let's
really
hope he still feels that way after today's episode.
Never a shit episode until this week.
So I've got a comment that I was just kind of interested in because I don't really know much about this. It's from the STRGZR9000 who comments.
That's a good one.
You guys forgot the guy who claimed to be from the future, won a whole bunch of money, and when they tried coming for him for the possibility that he was doing something actually illegal, he was gone. Ooh. And that sounds like a very interesting story. I'm not sure what story it is. So if you or if anyone else knows the story, let me know, because I'd be very interested to know that. I don't think I've heard of that one before.
Yeah. About whom do you speak? Please tell us.
Give me a source. Not saying it's not true, but I genuinely want to know more.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, on that, shall we talk about some more lies? No, I'm not saying that was a lie. I'm sure that is true. So for our main topic today, let's jump into it. We're going to be talking about some of the greatest lies in history. I think who suggested it this week? Was it Martin, or we had an idea?
We had an idea. Yeah, we did have an idea. And the idea was based on topics of particularly the BBC this week or last week. Martin Bashir, and there was basically he lied in order to get Diana onto the BBC programme to talk to him, basically, and it all escalated from there.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about, okay, lies in journalism, quite a narrow topic and quite maybe UK-centric based on the news this week. So we thought, why don't we widen out to lies in general? Because then we have a lot to talk about. And it widens our scope a little bit. So
we've each of us picked a lie that we want to discuss, but this list will not be definitive. There are probably many more lies we can talk about. So hopefully the ones we discuss.
I mean, there's going to be plenty more that we've missed off our list. And if there are any particularly big lies that you wish we talk about on the podcast, then let us know in the comments down below. Now, who wants to go first? Who's got a good lie for me?
Greatest in terms of size, right?
Great, amazing
lies. I just can't believe they pulled it off, No, greatest in terms of what, like the most impact, or just some of the widest reaching?
Most audacious, lies. Kind of thing.
Yes,
audacious,
which could be, you could class that as great, couldn't you?
You could, yeah.
Like they pulled it off. They pulled off this amazing lie. The lie was terrible, but they pulled it off.
What was it? Joseph Goebbels, wasn't it? Who said, if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually believe it.
Oh, what a great guy.
I mean, he's someone who knew what he was talking about.
Quality.
Oh dear.
Wow. So let's jump into it. Jump into some of these lies. That was a lie right there, by the way, just in case anyone was worried for a second. Okay, I'm going to pick and choose. Martin, what's your lie?
Well, my lie is, I guess it's kind of related to Goebbels. We can go there if you want to.
Do it.
It involves World War II, and in particular, it involves a lie that may have sparked World War II.
Ooh.
Or, well, sparked maybe not, but maybe facilitated World War II, the start of World War II. And I'm talking about a series of incidents that happened in August 1939, or around this time, just before the invasion of Poland.
Okay.
And in particular, there was an incident called the Gleiwitz incident, in which a false flag attack was staged by Nazis who posed as Polish, basically resistance fighters, and attacked this radio station in Gleiwitz in Germany in 1939. And so the incident came about basically after the war in the Nuremberg trials, when this Nazi called Alfred Naujoks, he basically gave his testimony and said that on the night of the 31st of August 1939, a group of German operatives dressed up in Polish uniforms and seized this particular radio tower in Gleiwitz and broadcast basically an anti-German message in Polish to the German people, saying that they basically had taken over the station and said all this basically anti-German rhetoric to try and make it seem like that there was justification for then, of course, the subsequent invasion of Poland in the start of September 1939, so just a couple of days later. And so this was used by the Germans, by the Nazis, to try and manipulate kind of the international community to believe that there was some justification for them invading Poland, and also get public support within Germany itself for the invasion too. So like basically saying that, the Poles have been stirring up trouble, and this is why we're invading, or one of the reasons why we're invading. They are a threat to us. And so the day before that they attacked this particular radio tower, the Germans brought in this Polish sympathizer he was arrested by the Gestapo, and they killed him. They killed him via lethal injection, and shot him in the back of the head, so that there was like a gunshot wound, and left him at the scene of this the takeover of this radio tower, to make it seem like that there had been this altercation and that this person had been shot. So so they went pretty far to make it seem like this was an actual attack on the radio station and wasn't just German people dressed up in Polish uniforms.
Yeah.
And so this was crazy, because actually, it was broadcast to the German people, and how many people actually reached was debatable, because when they got to the station, I think they realized that it wasn't actually a broadcast station. It was like just a radio tower, and so they were trying to find the radio equipment, and in the end they did it via like some local frequencies as opposed to like national radio, which is what they were trying to do. But anyway, the newspapers all across Germany and also the BBC in the UK got wind and published stories about this particular attack by these Poles on this German outpost. And so, of course, it did have an impact in terms of shaping how people felt about the kind of Polish and German relations at this time. Now, the question as to whether this influenced Germany going and invading Poland, of course, anyone would say that Hitler would have done it regardless, right? Yeah. This wasn't a factor in determining this. But what it could have done is given the Germans at least a few days where the international community and the German citizens were very much like, well, a bit of both sidism, thinking, the Polish are attacking, the Germans are retaliating. And they could have bought them a little bit of time to kind of push their narrative, which I think is quite interesting. And so this was a lie that led to the justification for invading Poland at the start of the war. It's pretty mad.
That's astonishing. It kind of...
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
This is going to sound really stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway. Just when you didn't think the Nazis could get any worse, you go and learn something, and you're like, yeah, okay. They really were history's bad guys. They really were.
Yeah.
They were indeed history's bad guys.
I never actually knew what the justification the justification they used to invade Poland actually was. I thought they just went in. Just
that's the thing. It's often stated, isn't it, that Hitler just wanted more land. Invaded Czechoslovakia for the Sudetenland, invaded Poland, Blitzkrieg. You never really hear about him trying to justify it, because he's always seen as this. Well, rightly so. This this crazed madman that wanted, as you say, Lebensraum for the German people. Yeah. But of course, when they invaded Poland, he did make a speech in the Reichstag where he cited these border tensions and this particular event as reasons for justifying why Germany invaded Poland. So it was something that he brought up himself. It wasn't like it happened and it was just kind of subsidiary evidence for trying to invade. He brought it up, So it's something that I didn't know about until I had a research of this, and to know that there's this crazy line to actually have killed people and dressed them up in uniform to make it seem like there had been this conflict. And actually, some of the people that they used as stooges were taken from Dachau concentration camp, or the labor camp at that point, notorious labor camp and death camp, which was founded, I think, in the early 30s, actually, 1933, I think. And so they really went to town in creating this false flag. We often hear about the Operation Northwards, don't we? And potentially Pearl Harbor being a false flag as well.
The Reichstag fire is another famous one.
Reichstag fire.
That was real.
But of course, this one is the testimony at Nuremberg very much confirmed that there was a false flag that tried to start World War II.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is a big one, because, like I say, the consequences of that were huge.
Exactly, yeah.
And public, you can't overstate how important public perception was during the war as well. So like you say, just if they had that extra few days advantage, who knows what that would have translated to? Like, had they not had that in the course of the war, and
presumably as well, the backing of public opinion in Germany.
Exactly.
They'd gone to many other. They'd had almost a decade, or at least half a decade of conditioning the German public to support Hitler's actions. But if you go into a war thinking we've done the right thing, we're in this war for just reasons, then you can, as they did, hold public opinion, and people will fight more fervently for you for years until the tide started to turn, and then slowly the German people started to give up.
Yeah, I mean, for a few months before this incident, Himmler had been, and the propaganda people in the Nazi Party had been posting. That's quite a modern thing, isn't it? They had
Posting
been writing. Yeah, there's statuses all over the place. They had been writing in the German newspapers that the Polish were trying to instigate ethnic cleansing of German people living in Poland. So this certainly wasn't the start of this kind of this narrative that they were trying to push against Poland. But it definitely seemed like an excuse, an ignition point, as it were, to start their campaign.
It's interesting. You brought up a few concepts and that appear in my story, actually.
Okay.
Yours is World War II. Mine's World War One. And ethnic cleansing is definitely the theme. So another dark one, I'm afraid. But you've heard of Armenia and the Armenian people. Mm-hmm. They're actually something of a diaspora. There's about 5 million of them alive today in many countries, the UK and the USA particularly. Good homes for them, Russia as well. Lots of them in those countries, as well as Armenia, which is... Well, the Armenians are an ethnic group from the Armenian Highlands, which is now in Armenia, which form the geographical boundary of Anatolia, if anyone's heard of that, the peninsula, which is also known as Asia Minor in slightly more classical sense. And that's where modern-day Turkey and Armenia are located. In fact, Armenia not only borders Turkey, but it borders Iran to the south and Azerbaijan to the east and Georgia, formerly the Soviet Union, to the north. But during the First World War, this whole region, Anatolia, and those countries I've just listed, were part of, Anatolia was the heart of the Ottoman Empire. And the empire entered the First World War on the side of Germany against Russia, the French, and the British. Now, most people know that the Ottoman Empire was under Muslim rule at the time, but the Armenians are Christian. And in fact, the Armenian Apostolic Church is the world's oldest national church.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So their Christianity dates back a very long time. They're very Christian people.
Wow, yeah.
And by the time World War One had broke out, the Ottoman Empire had suffered about a century of other nations that they'd conquered, rebelling and gaining independence from them. And because the Armenians lived in the peninsula next to Turkey, or what is now Turkey, they developed this incredible paranoia that the Armenians would want their independence. As it happened, quite a few of them did, but they weren't doing anything about it. But they became paranoid that Armenians would do anything, and in particular that they would gain independence or seek to gain independence by collaborating with Russia, which was literally on their doorstep, on the border.
Yeah.
So, in 1915, the Ottomans decided to do something about this by disarming all the Armenian soldiers serving in their army and then executing them. They did the same to any Armenians serving in the police force. Then they ordered the mass deportations of Armenian civilians out of Anatolia, and they forced them to march without food or supplies to the Syrian desert with paramilitary escorts who robbed them, raped them, or executed them summarily on the spot. The ones who survived the marches were put into concentration camps, and up to 200,000 of the survivors were forced to convert to Islam and then forcibly integrated into Muslim households, as in the Ottoman Empire. In total, around 1.5 million ethnic Armenians were killed in this process, either from starvation or murder. Only 500,000 of them survived and fled to other parts of the world, as I mentioned. To justify this, the Ottomans claimed that there was an Armenian conspiracy to betray and overthrow the empire, similar to what you just said, Martin. But instead of conducting a false flag operation, the Ottomans just said there was a conspiracy, even though there's absolutely no evidence at all. Even at the time, no one believed it outside of the Ottoman Empire, and no historian today thinks it's true because there's no evidence for it. So that was the first lie.
Blimey, I mean, what a lie that is.
Wow.
After the defeat of the Ottoman Empire in World War One, the men who perpetrated the genocide, the political and military leaders who ordered it to happen and who organized it, were put on trial. And they were found guilty, including some of them who confessed to it, and they were sentenced to death. But then, in 1922, Turkish nationalists, led by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, led the Turkish War of Independence, and the Ottoman Empire became modern Turkey. And the new Turkish government were very nationalist, and they decided to pardon all of the men who had been found guilty of genocide. So none of them actually faced execution.
Dear, oh dear.
Furthermore, during and after that War of Independence, the new national Turkish government sought out and massacred more Armenian survivors, which everyone characterizes, because there's no other word for it, as ethnic cleansing. And in fact, this Armenian genocide was used as a key example of genocide in the United Nations War Crimes Report that started in 1943 and was delivered in 1948, started in response to what the Nazis were doing, and instead ended up including and using the Armenian genocide by the Turks as like a definitive example of what genocide is. And today, several nations recognize the Armenian genocide, and Pope Francis recognized it officially in 2015 and again in 2016. But not every country recognizes the Armenian genocide. And Turkey itself argues that the casualty figures of 1.5 million are wildly exaggerated, and that actually it wasn't a genocide, it was more of a war between the Armenians and the Turks. And that the whole genocide is a false narrative created to undermine the creation of modern Turkey. So Turkish academics and anyone who writes about it, journalists, for example, are prosecuted, under Section 301 of Turkey's law, which bans the denigrating of Turkishness. All textbooks...
Free press.
Yeah. The textbooks in school have been rewritten in Turkey so that the Armenian genocide isn't taught. When it does mention it, it says that it's a lie, and that the Armenians of the period were traitors, and that any actions taken against them were necessary measures in order to deal with... They're doubling down.
So they're doubling down.
And the Turkish government is known, on at least 2 occasions, to have systematically destroyed evidence of the genocide. First in 1918, 1919, as you'd expect, just as they were losing the war, and then throughout the 1980s and into the 1990s. The Turkish government. In fact, there was a minister who was found to be, one of his responsibilities was to secretly destroy evidence of the Armenian genocide. In April 2021, at the end of April 2021, this year, President Biden became the first US president to formally declare that the USA regards the killing of 1.5 million Armenians as genocide. Yeah.
It's crazy that he was the
Ronald Reagan.
It's only 100 years since the first.
Ronald Reagan hinted at it, but there was never...
100 years.
The official position of the USA until now is that it wasn't genocide. And unsurprisingly, Recep Erdogan of Turkey demanded that Biden retract the declaration. But you can guess why American presidents have avoided declaring it a genocide or recognizing it as a genocide is because Turkey is the gateway to Asia. It's strategically very important. It's a member of NATO. So throughout the Cold War, it was very strategically important to Western powers, which is why the United Kingdom still doesn't recognize the Armenian genocide as a genocide. Although our official reason is that there is not enough evidence to prove that it was a genocide. MPs in our government have tried and failed on a few occasions to try to make the government acknowledge it. But in 2009, a British lawyer revealed that several MPs throughout recent decades have repeatedly misled Parliament by misrepresenting notes from the British Foreign Office about the strategic wisdom of formally recognizing the genocide, as in the strategic relationship, the way it would affect our relationship with Turkey as a strategic partner. So not only does the British government claim there is insufficient evidence, but several MPs, mostly from a certain political party, have actively misled by misrepresenting Foreign Office information to Parliament. So,
What political party is that, Robin? Just name and
Conservatives. But I point out that Labour were in power from 1997 to 2010 and didn't do anything about it either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Although I thought the nice ending, I guess, for us as three English blokes is that Wales and Scotland have officially recognised the Armenian genocide. So Alex is living in a country that recognises the Armenian genocide, and I thought this was just an interesting kind of addendum. Derby City Council has recognised the Armenian genocide.
I guess if you have no power, then you can just do it so you like, can't you?
That's a huge lie, because it's like the entire world is lying to themselves almost, except for Derby City Council.
Yeah. So 30 countries officially recognise
Derby City Council.
Yeah.
I guess that's a significant move that the US has made, in fairness to Joe Biden. I mean, I guess, is it in fairness? He's doing the bare minimum, by any other metric.
Does Derby...
It's unacceptable that no president had done that in the last 100 years.
Does Derby have like a big Armenian population or something?
It might do. I mean, I know
they've lobbied.
A lot of them came to the UK, and a lot of them settled in the Midlands. I know Leicester's got a population. I think Leeds as well. So that the 5 boroughs, might have quite an Armenian population. So I would assume yes, unless Derby City Council just suddenly had a moment of great conscience. Conscience, yes, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yes.
But yeah, so I just thought this fascinated me because I've been aware of the Armenian genocide for many years now, although I remember growing up being completely ignorant of it, and the day I learned about it was one of those big kind of like, oh, that's a thing that happened. But then I was very sad to learn that to this day, Turkey is actively expunging it from its own history, saying it's a thing that didn't happen, and anybody who says it happened is lying. And even to the point where, as you say, Alex and Martin, Western nations who are quite hot on pointing out war crimes and genocide are just quietly ignoring it and pretending nothing happened.
Just for the tactical advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's grim. Yeah. Very grim.
It's amazing what has been recognised and what has even been admitted by certain countries, most notably if you look at Germany and their role in, particularly in World War II, of course, when something is beyond doubt, which it very much was in that case, and what it very much seems to be in this case too. It seems odd that something 100 years ago, it's like, I get it, national pride. I understand sometimes people don't want to, especially the nationalist government won't want to necessarily admit to fault. Will there be issues with reparations and things like that? I get it. Like there are consequences to admitting it that are difficult to handle. But the evidence seems overwhelming. It's been 100 years.
Yep.
People are going to, I imagine the international community is very much going to respect you a lot more if you're willing to do the right thing, make the right statement, and acknowledge what you've done in your past.
Yeah. But Erdogan is also a bit of a dictator, and I feel like it's a weakness he would not admit. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's one of those things though. I don't understand it, but I know like history is written by the victor, but really no one's buying it. People are just not saying it outright because of the tactical advantage, but it's obvious to anyone else. Yeah, what you saw with Germany after World War II, I feel like if you're going to repair and rebuild your image as a country, you have to kind of accept your past and accept what you've done and move on from that. This makes them look like the Turkish government look terrible.
I mean, say this, but I mean, the British Empire is covered at a very surface level in the UK, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
we're not necessarily told all of the. We're not necessarily taught all of the atrocities that were committed by the UK throughout the British. We are a little bit, and I imagine even since we were at school, it's actually probably got a lot better.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
In terms of, but it's very much there's your half a term on that. There's your 6 weeks or whatever.
Given how much
about your own history,
a big proportion of our society complains about the extent to which we complain about the empire and the evils of colonialism, it's not actually taught much at school at all. It's all self-taught criticism, really.
Yeah. If there's anyone else at home who's from the UK who's a little bit younger than us, did you cover it in any more depth than perhaps we did? It wasn't covered.
That'd be good to know.
It wasn't covered too much. It was covered a bit at my school. We learned about bits and pieces, but it was very much like, here's your 6 weeks on it, and if you take it as one of your specialist subjects in GCSE or A level or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about all of this, like erasing the past. The amount of times I've seen on like daytime morning TV shows over the last like couple of years, like Piers Morgan or someone who looks identical to him complaining about people not respecting Winston Churchill, and saying that he wasn't a perfect character in every single way, shape and form.
And was directly responsible for the deaths of many thousands of Indians, for instance. Yes.
Thousands or millions, yeah.
The Bay of Bengal stuff, right?
Yeah, with the rice.
Yeah. I mean, that's the area we could definitely talk about that another time for sure. It's I think Winston Churchill's a tough one because there's definitely different, like with everyone, there's different sides to people, and people have different parts that deserve praise for sure, and other parts that deserve, if not criticism, then at least a review. A review of character. And I think people like to either see one or the other.
Yeah.
And they don't see the person as a whole. So I think that's the frustrating thing about what I've seen like on the news and stuff in the last year with the whole debates around the statues and Winston Churchill's statue having his own armed guards. It's the refusal to even have a nuanced conversation about him as a person. Yeah. It's like, no, he was perfect. He saved us from the Nazis. Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, he also did a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
You can't even have that conversation.
No, you're right. Yeah. And there's because we're talking about big lies, but there's also that other phrase, whitewashing history, which is, and there's a fine line, isn't it? They're both lies. They're both misrepresenting the truth. But there's a fine line between an outright lie and kind of deliberately ignoring the unpleasant stuff.
Yes.
To misrepresent the past. And I think it's we need to. It would be useful, I think, personally, if as a society we got together and agreed where that line is and how close we should get to it before we start questioning whether we're doing the right thing. Yeah, because I think it's fair to say, we shouldn't do a warts and all of everybody, but that phrase comes from Oliver Cromwell, and Oliver Cromwell is an individual who is equally celebrated and hated, and with good reason by both sides. We seem to be fine with that because he was 400 years ago. So we're happy to be like, oh yeah, that guy, he was horrible in these ways, but he was good in these ways. And why can't we do that with everybody, however recently they were alive?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Mm-hmm. So what's your lie, Alex?
Heavy stories. Well, I've gone in a completely different direction to both of you, actually. I want to look at business lies. And yeah, the largest financial fraud ever committed in the US was relatively recently, actually. Yeah. Committed by Bernie Madoff. Do you remember Bernie Madoff?
Yeah.
Name rings a bell, yeah.
He defrauded investors out of $65 billion. $65 billion. And this all came out in 2008. And he was sentenced to a 150-year jail term for this crime. And in restitution, that's actually how much he defrauded. So the amount of money that people invested into him, but the amount that he actually owes investors back, the amount that he promised he would pay people back, is over $170 billion. It's the largest financial crime in US history. And he died recently. I think in April, actually, into this 10 or 11 years into this 150-year jail term. But what he committed, his financial fraud, was what's known as a Ponzi scheme. And so I wanted to talk about the man himself, where that name comes from. Now, Bernie Madoff committed the largest Ponzi scheme in history. But the story of Charles Ponzi, where this gets its name from, is actually quite interesting. So, Charles Ponzi was an Italian immigrant who came to the United States at the start of the 20th century. Now, he wasn't the first person to pull off this con known as a Ponzi scheme, but his Ponzi scheme was so notable that the name became known after him. And a Ponzi scheme, for those of you who don't know, put simply, very simply, because I don't even understand the stuff relating. I don't even understand Bernie Madoff stuff. That's way too complicated. But essentially, a Ponzi scheme is you encourage investors to invest in something that you're like an investment project that you're working on, and you promise them ridiculous returns, way bigger than what other like banks and stuff at the time are offering. But then to pay those investors back with the promised returns, you just get more investors. You have to keep doubling the amount of investors. So you're paying the investors back with the money that more investors are giving to you, if that makes sense. So it's like a giant house of cards.
Yeah.
It's a horrible situation to get into, and there's no way out once you start a Ponzi scheme. So that's kind of how it works. So if you had one investor, if someone invested $100 into you and you promised to give them $200 back, you would then need to get two investors investing $100 to pay the first investor back. Right. And then you would need four investors and eight, and so on and so forth.
That's the thing with Ponzi schemes. It seems legit because the first few people in the scheme do get rich. They get their money back, right?
Exactly. And then they become encouraged by that, so they invest more.
Tell
money.
Others as well.
They tell others and they invest more money, and it becomes this kind of local phenomenon. And that's exactly what happened with Charles Ponzi. So he was born to a once wealthy family in 1882 in Italy, and they'd fallen on hard times, and he was desperate to see his family restored to its former glory. So he immigrated to the US in order to live out the American dream and regain his fortunes. And in 1907, he secured a job at a bank owned by another Italian immigrant called Luigi Zarossi. And Zarossi was actually doing a very similar thing. He was offering investors 2 or 3 times the interest rate of the bank's competitors. But he was doing this by, he was paying for this investment, this additional interest rate, by taking the money from more investors. So he was doing a Ponzi scheme essentially. And Zarossi eventually fled the country whilst taking all the money and just fled to Mexico. So I put that in there because that's probably where Ponzi, or might have been where Ponzi got his influence from. Luigi Zarossi.
A Zarossi scheme.
So Luigi got away with it.
A Zarossi scheme. He left his family and moved and fled to Mexico.
Got away with it.
He may have hated his family. Who knows?
True.
Yeah. And after the fallout of that, I think Ponzi actually helped with some of the fallout, helped deal with the families of that. So he's a great character here. And by 1919, he had saved up enough money to open up an office, but he didn't know what business he was going to be running. And he was literally writing to companies around the world to convince them to partner with him in one of his schemes. But he didn't know what his scheme was going to be. And eventually, a company wrote back to him, a Spanish firm wrote back, not saying we want to partner with you. They were very firmly saying no. We don't know you. Stop contacting us. Who are you? But tucked inside the envelope that they sent to him, there was an international reply coupon, or an IRC. And this was essentially a way for whoever's sending the letter to prepay the return letter. So it's like a stamp, I guess, an international stamp. And this was like a global thing, so it could be exchanged for the relevant stamps at post offices around the world. And and they had fixed prices wherever they were sold. But because of inflation after World War One, the prices varied from country to country.
Okay.
With these stamps. So he had the idea to basically buy these stamps where they're cheap in one country and sell them for ship them across to a different country and sell them there.
Yes.
He would need to buy them in a huge bulk. But this is known as arbitrage and is a legitimate business idea. People do. And if he'd just done this on his own, he might have been moderately successful.
Well, people do with currencies, don't they?
It's currency trading, essentially.
I don't understand that. I'm already lost.
So,
the overall is buying something cheap in one country and selling it for more because it's worth more in another.
Okay.
For a very basic.
Okay.
It doesn't, to be honest, it doesn't even matter that much. Yeah. But essentially, he took this idea and instead of just doing it on his own, he decided to go big and he touted this around town as the biggest investment opportunity of a lifetime.
Okay.
And this is where Ponzi came into his own because he was first and foremost a salesman and he had charisma. What he lacked in everything else, he had charisma. And he appeared immaculately dressed, drawing on his Italian heritage. He won people over and gained their trust. He made a new business called the Securities Exchange Company and offered those willing to stump up cash a 50% return on their investment after 45 days.
That's huge.
And this was at a time where traditional banks were offering 5% annual interest. Yeah. So for this, 50% after 45 days sounded insane.
Almost too good to be true, you could say.
Almost too good to be true.
Yeah.
So after 6 months of this, he'd got $2.5 million in investments that he'd secured from people around Boston. And that in today's money is about $32 million. And yeah, as a testament to how legitimate this all seemed, this was like a craze sweeping through the city at the time. About 75% of Boston's police force had invested with Charles Ponzi.
Wow.
So it went around the station.
Yeah.
Everyone getting rich. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of tragic. So he set out from Italy to regain his family wealth, and overnight, pretty much, he bought himself a mansion and a Rolls Royce car, but then everything kind of started falling apart eventually. The problem was, because at its core there was a legitimate business idea, this IRCs. But buying them and selling them meant shipping them. And this was something that he hadn't factored into it. He hadn't considered. The cost of shipping for the amount that he needed would have been huge. And he would have had to have transported them in huge quantities.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't do it.
Right.
And eventually people got suspicious. And a financial expert called Clarence Barron looked into the actual numbers, the amount that he would have to have traded at this point. Yeah. And he concluded that in order to sustain the magnitude of investments that he'd received into his company, Ponzi would have had to have traded 160 million of these stamps.
Whoa.
Whoa.
So the first thing he did after working this out was called the United States Post Office, who then revealed to him that only 27,000 not had been traded, but were in circulation globally. So there were only 27,000 in existence, and that nobody, as far as they could tell, was buying them in significant quantities. So,
dear oh dear.
And when authorities finally raided the Securities Exchange Company, his company, they discovered that this entire business empire was built on $61 of IRCs they'd only bought. It was just a single box of stamps that he bought.
Amazing.
That all these millions of people had invested in.
That's amazing. Terrible, but amazing.
So all in all, his books were examined and he was $7 million in debt, while his investors had lost a collective $20 million, or in today's money, that's around $275 million.
Yeah. Wow.
The fallout from this was that 5 local banks collapsed. Tens of thousands of investors lost their money, and people lost life savings, family fortunes.
Oh, damn.
And it was all because of the Ponzi scheme.
That is terrible.
And unlike Bernie Madoff, who got 150 years in jail, Ponzi, I think he got like 3 years in jail for this.
Oh, okay.
And then he was
Worth it.
And then he was on to some other crazy schemes. He moved to Florida eventually, I think, and tried to sell people swampland. He kept trying to defraud people before eventually he was kicked out of the US, and he was sent back to Italy, where he died at the age of 66. So,
Okay.
Gosh.
Okay.
This was the 1920s, did you say?
Yeah, 1920.
Okay,
So,
I mean, that makes sense. That's the decade of reckless, irresponsible, the roaring 20s, no financial regulation whatsoever. So, yeah, no wonder they only gave him 3 years, because I imagine America was kind of shocked, like, this is a thing you can do with money? What? They were learning. They were learning, yeah. A bit impressed.
It was
the American dream.
1919 that he set up his company. So right at like the start of the 20s, kicking off the roaring 20s with a bang.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing good about duping people like that. And when they're losing their life savings, and when you're stealing their money, really.
That's the thing. That's the thing with not just Charles Ponzi, but Bernie Madoff. A lot of the problems, well, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, but the big companies like Wall Street, a lot of inside people knew what was going on, or kind of could afford not to invest with him and didn't trust his trading practices. Yeah. It was the kind of middle class people investing in him who lost everything. Loads of people lost everything, and I think that's why his sentence was so severe, because it affected so many people, tens of thousands of people.
Yes, yeah. Oh, awful. Pretty awful. Devastating for the people involved.
Yeah, pretty huge lie. Maybe not as significant, I'd say, as the ones that you've both brought up, or as but it's in the business world anyway. I think it's as big as lies get,
and it's historical. I imagine most people listening and watching this have heard of a Ponzi scheme. So it's also kind of it's so unsustainable as well. Like, it sounds so stressful. Yeah, why would you select it? Yeah,
I know.
Imagine the people chasing you. Like, where's my money?
I think Bernie Madoff said that he didn't have an exit strategy. His way out was he hoped that he would die before he was caught, which is
a horrible way to live.
Misjudged it by a decade, mate.
Like, I know he spent over 10 years in prison, but I do kind of wonder if he was almost relieved that it had all come out at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
I imagine so. You're just like, let's just get on with the next chapter, right?
Yeah. I'd rather go to jail than spend the rest of my life paying people back, because
But anyway, that was my lie. I'm
very
sure
good, very good.
I'm sure there are countless big lies out there that we've missed. I'm more than sure. I'm 100% sure there are.
You can't really say missed, can you? They maybe just didn't include.
Yeah, there are many more.
But I mean, this would be a 1 million hour long podcast if we got through all of them.
Maybe we'll do a part 2 at some point. More.
Yeah, if people like this, please let us know in the comments below, or on Twitter at JInterestingYT, or I'm at AllTimeRobin.
At MartInteresting.
And I'm at JustAlexing. Let us know if there are any big lies that you would like us to cover in a future podcast episode, maybe.
We won't take small lies. We'll only take big lies.
It has to be a big lie.
Massive lie.
Big lie affects a huge number of people. But, fellas, shall we get on to this week's quiz?
Yeah.
Let's.
Welcome, fellas, to this week's quiz. It is really quickly becoming the end of this season. We're barrel rolling towards the finale, and I think, Robin, you need to win this quiz if you want to
get second place.
and Martin, you need to win this quiz if you want to get second place. No, Robin, you can still catch up with me.
I think the way this is at the moment is that basically, if I win, Alex, you win the quiz.
Yeah.
I'll win
Alex
the
wins
quiz, yeah.
season,
But you will have a shot at second place.
Well, I'm
Martin.
not sure because I've still got to host a quiz, haven't I?
So do I.
I think you.
We've got two more quizzes each. So
we've each got two more quizzes.
So Martin and I both
I'm on
need to
7.
win both of our next quizzes. And Alex needs to lose both of his next quizzes
see.
for either of us
Yeah.
to get
draw,
any
to
kind
tie.
of
I see.
thing out of
Exactly.
it.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, obviously, I have a preferred outcome from this quiz, but I have made my utmost effort to not have biased questions, and I hope that's sounds good enough.
We trust
I haven't
you.
designed
trust
this.
you, Alex.
I haven't designed
trust you.
this quiz to be a Slumdog Millionaire scenario for you, Martin. Just all questions that relate to your life.
That would be impressive.
But yeah, that would be impressive.
And probably some kind of GDPR violation, but we'll talk about that.
All my personal details.
Okay. But as always, we need a buzzer for this quiz. Gentlemen, what are your buzzers? Martin, what have you gone
A
for?
classic.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Delia there.
Mm-hmm.
And Robin.
I've gone for a short but sweet
What have
one.
you gone for?
Anyone who's watched The Wire might recognise this sound.
Very
Clay
nice.
Davis, I think that's the name. Best way to swear in the world.
Cool. So, as always, there are 10 questions plus a bonus question. Just straight general knowledge. Nothing fancy this week. Just a classic general knowledge
Okay.
quiz.
Okay, right.
Let's
Do this.
jump into it.
this.
The catch is all the answers are lies. It's opposite day.
Well, I did think just before we started recording, I was like, why didn't I do a true or false quiz? That would have
been
so
quite good
well with this
thematically,
week's-
wouldn't it?
It
Yeah.
would have been, yeah.
What an idiot. Oh well, we can learn, live and learn. Okay. Question
Okay.
number 1.
Okay.
The lev is the currency of which country?
Love.
No idea.
Go on,
No,
Martin.
sounds
I'm
Eastern
rooting for
European.
you.
I'm going to go for Bulgaria.
Oh my god, it's Bulgaria.
I
Yes!
nailed it. That's crazy.
Nailed it.
I think I mentioned it before, but I have been to Bulgaria. It rings a bell.
Yeah.
Ah,
Actually, Martin, you did get that suspiciously quickly. That's
The Lev. Yeah, the Lev.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't send Martin all the answers.
I've been conned.
Is this actually going through my life? It's like going through past holidays.
I have not intended that at all. Okay, question number 2. So
It was 2004. It was a while ago.
I'm after a city here, but if the guesses are really bad, I will take the country.
Okay.
Question 2. Where was the fortune cookie invented?
Oh,
Good question.
Yes, Robin.
I'm going to go with San Francisco.
Oh my god. Yeah, San Francisco.
No.
How did you know that? What's going on?
It seemed like an obvious guess. It was obviously American, and then there's a big Chinese community in San Francisco. So
Well
deduced.
deciphered.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nicely done. Okay, 1-1. I'm just so impressed with both of those. Both got them
it's all
straight.
downhill from here. Martin and I are going to relax now. Like, yeah, okay, we've impressed, so we're going to take a seat back.
Okay, question number 3. Which American politician became known as Tricky Dicky?
Oh,
Shit, boy. Think I'm gonna be the scapegoat for the whole damn machine?
I think I heard Robin first there, Martin. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, because I know Martin knows this as well. It's Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon.
I'm going to have to take your first answer. Richard Dixon is not a real person.
Richard Dixon. No, I know what you meant. It's okay.
That's
I will
cruel to
allow it.
every
I will
Rich
allow it.
Dixon listening to this podcast. Oh,
Richard
dear.
Dixon.
Dick Dixon.
Richard Nixon.
Dick Dixon.
Oh, dear.
Amazing. Okay.
If you want to give me half a point for that, I won't.
No,
I won't
it's
blame
all
you.
good. No, better. It should be 2 points. Comedy value.
Okay, 2-1 to Robin.
I didn't
Question-
vote for Richard Dixon because he wasn't on my ballot. Sorry.
Question number 4. What is the first event in the decathlon?
Oh,
I couldn't even tell you what the second or the third.
Go on then, Martin.
I know the high jump's quite early. Is it high jump?
It's not the high jump, no.
Yeah, that's what I felt.
Clarence is gonna.
Ooh,
Go on then, Robin.
Is it the long jump?
It is not the long jump.
actually, this one's quite early on. Is it? Is it the hurdles?
It's not the hurdles, no.
That is in there too, right?
I don't actually know what's in the decathlon.
Pretty sure there is.
This is never seen the decathlon.
You never watched it? I just can't think what's first.
The first thing you do, because presumably it would be a simple thing, so you can get a quick start, right? It wouldn't be a lengthy thing like a relay race.
It's a single person event. I shouldn't tell you that.
That also would be a reason it wouldn't be a relay race.
Yeah, a single person event.
So it would be, or maybe, okay.
Shit, as far as the federal money's concerned, he said everything. The faucet, the goose, on goose. The one.
I think that's going on for a while. 100-meter sprint?
It is the 100-meter sprint. Well done. Well done. Well deduced again, Robin.
Damn.
Again, Robin.
Can we name the other ones as well? Does that give you a point for that?
I mean, you get 9 points.
What else
I don't know any
has
of them.
discus, doesn't it? Javelin.
Archery.
That's 2 points for you, Martin.
High
Yep,
jump.
right there. Yep, 3. Yep, love it.
You've already said.
Keep them coming. Let me give you as many points as I
400.
can, Martin.
The 1500's in it, isn't it? 1500's in it.
All of them.
400
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
And
That's
most of these are probably
5,
really
6
wrong.
points.
Don't forget the swimming, the 500-meter
Okay.
swimming race.
500-meter swim.
That's a thing. I don't
Must be
know.
fun to watch.
I don't watch the Olympics.
That's like 10 lengths, isn't it, in the Olympic pool? 500 meters.
Okay, so that is what's that?
3-1.
3-1.
Is it? Oh,
Martin,
Damn.
I need you to
I know.
win.
Oh, sorry. There's loads of time. There's 6 points.
No,
You
there's
can
still
get-
plenty
you
of
can get
time
6
to come
points.
back. Two
You
points.
did this to me last time.
Okay. Question number 5. If you are humiliated and forced to admit your defeat or mistakes, you are said to eat what? Go on then, Martin.
Humble pie.
That's a good guess. That's not what I had though.
What?
That's not the phrase I
mean-
had.
Major crimes. Shit.
Go on then, Robin.
I'm now doubting everything. Eat your words?
Yeah, that's the same. That's another version of it. Okay. These are all
No,
these are
it's not
all valid answers.
Because eat your words is like when you say something and it goes back on you, like
Words, humble pie.
hypocrisy.
What was the go, go,
I didn't realize there was so many for this that started with
Because
it.
my first thing was to follow it with this and be like, eat your shit.
What was the? Can you go through the wording of the question again?
Yeah, what was it again?
Please.
Yeah, sure. So if you're humiliated and forced to admit your defeat or mistakes, you're said to eat what?
I'm not.
I can give you a clue if you want.
It might be necessary.
Yeah. Maybe.
Do you want a clue?
Then.
Yeah, go for it.
This might be fingers on buzzers, but I mean, if you haven't heard it,
It
then
already is.
it's not. Okay. It's a type of bird.
What?
Have you not heard this? Have you not heard this expression?
Type of bird?
Eat.
Eat.
I really
Eat chicken.
yeah. I'm like, what is this?
Eat chicken.
What is this?
I wonder if this is an American expression. Maybe I'm not sure. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know if I could give you another clue.
No, probably not.
I
Then.
don't know what this is.
Hey,
That's why I could be more specific on the
That's
bird.
right. You just
Could narrow it down.
I mean, I can't think of anything. I'm happy to hear the answer. To be honest, I don't think I'm going to get this.
Really curious. I want to try to guess. So I'm just going through in my mind. I'm going through all the birds that it might possibly be.
Eat swan.
Yeah, eat
Eat
goose. Eat,
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna tell
go
you.
for it.
yeah, go for it.
It's crow. Eat crow.
Don't know that one.
I might have heard that, but yeah, that's not.
You never heard
don't
that?
Eat humble
That's
pie.
not a thing.
Eat humble pie.
I've never heard that
Quite-
being used. I might have come across it in a TV show or something, but yeah,
When you said humble pie, I should have just accepted it, Martin.
quite a good
to be
answer,
honest.
wasn't it?
That's
it was not
stupid
the
of me.
answer you were looking for.
It was not the answer I was going for.
I mean, it was interesting.
Disappointing.
Okay, fine.
Eat crow. What? Are you talking about?
That must be
crow.
the
Rubbish.
American thing.
Let us know in the comments if you've heard that expression, because I didn't make it
And
up. I didn't just
why?
make it up.
What are the origins of that? That's very, very odd.
Yeah, I should have looked that up, really, shouldn't I?
Eat crow.
Never mind. Eat crow. Okay, question number 6.
Okay.
As of 2021, obviously we haven't been there for ages, how many men have walked on the moon?
Oh.
They gonna come talk to me about money laundering in West Baltimore?
Go on then, Robin.
12?
It is 12,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, it is.
Sorry, Martin.
Well done. That is 4-1 for you, Robin.
Oh dear, this is shocking. Eat humble pie.
Martin, you need the remaining questions.
Yeah,
I
I already
think.
got one. Humble pie. That should be a.
That wasn't the one I had.
You can have that point. I don't mind.
Sorry.
Go for it.
No,
It's a
it wasn't
phrase
there,
you
Robin. It wasn't
use.
there. It was correct, but it wasn't there.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Martin.
It's okay. It's fine. It's you missing out, to be fair.
Yeah.
If we're
Okay,
being honest here,
question-
Alex, you've done yourself a disservice by not accepting humble
I
pie.
feel like a third wheel in this relationship, and maybe I should go.
Just turn off. Just close.
Question number 7.
okay. Okay.
In rugby union, I don't have it. I should have. Why didn't I? Question number 7.
Okay.
If you were having the South American dish ceviche, what type of food would you be eating? Ceviche or kevish?
Oh, so the C.
With a
Okay.
C.
A
I just want to say Savish, but,
Yeah, surely.
but I
you
can't
get-
do that. No, I'm not going for Savish, the fish. Savish. If you're having Savish, what you're having is you're having a lovely lamb dinner.
It is not lamb dinner, no.
Oh goodness.
Are we looking for like the major component, not like rice with peas
clues
and
going
a
on
sprinkling of turmeric or like that kind of thing? I've never heard of this.
It's a type of food would you be eating? Type of
Type
food.
of food.
Shit.
So it's not like, lovely lamb dinner.
Vegetables.
Lamb would be the component that I'm looking
I
for.
see, I see.
Okay.
But it's not lamb.
It's not lamb.
It's not lamb.
Well, I just said vegetables, so Martin can have another guess.
No, you can go for it. Go for.
Did you want vegetables? As your answer?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can choose a
yeah.
specific vegetable if you want.
It's quite broad.
Carrot.
It's not a carrot.
What was it called again?
Ceviche.
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 I mean, I guessed the
Ceviche.
spelling correctly, but that doesn't
Yeah, I'm thinking of Ceviche.
Ceviche.
And you haven't said what country it comes from, have you?
Ceviche.
South American.
South
it's,
American.
It's a South American dish. I don't know what country it comes from.
Ceviche.
Or if
Sorry,
it's broadly
Martin's
like
turn.
you can find them in all other countries. In many South American countries. Do you want a clue or shall I? Go on then, Robin.
Monkey.
Monkey. No, it's not
Monkeys in South
monkey.
America.
Could be.
They eat them in Indiana Jones.
I mean, it could
don't they?
be. It
That's
could be unusual
Indian.
because you're saying this as like a thing, like a big thing.
Monkey brains.
So maybe it'd be something a little bit exotic.
Yeah, so I'm assuming like something unique
Yeah.
to South America. So I'm for monkey.
I'm not
Okay,
saying
well, I'll
anything.
give one more.
I can do a clue after you suggest something.
I'm just going to go for potatoes.
It is not
Okay.
potatoes,
I'll
no.
get a clue.
Okay. Okay.
Come on.
Okay. This might be fingers on buzzers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Think of how it sounds.
Ceviche.
Go on then, Martin.
Ceviche. Ceviche is a fish.
Yeah.
Ceviche is a fish.
I
yes.
thought seriously, was that not? No.
It's just fish.
Because we both dismissed that.
When you said that, I was like, yes, you're going to get it. And then you went for some lovely lamb dinner.
So just to ram home the defeat, I dismissed fish because we dismissed it at the beginning, and then you were like, what does it sound like? I was like, it sounds like a German person saying swish. Is it a tail? It's Ceviche.
It's Ceviche.
Ceviche. Yeah, well done, Martin.
Okay.
What type of fish? Go on.
I don't know. I don't know what type of fish, or if it's the dish type, how it's cooked.
If you can't prove it's what type of fish it is, then I think this is a lie.
Well,
no, I don't.
Well, maybe I am lying.
Question number whatever.
Question number 8, and it is 4-2 to Robin.
Oh, Martin can do this. He can do this.
What was the Roman name for England?
Take it easy on me, son.
They sounded very similar to me, like timing wise. So I'm gonna give it to Martin.
No, go ahead.
I wasn't first.
I genuinely, I think I heard you first.
Yeah,
I wasn't.
I didn't.
I wasn't. Robin's came in just before mine. On my audio, Robin's came first.
I don't know.
Oh, really?
Okay, go, Martin. You go first. Genuinely, go first.
That's okay.
It sounds like I'm cheating, but it genuinely.
No, honestly, I heard yours first, so do go for it.
No, you go first.
Okay, Robin, go for it.
I do, because I did hear yours just before mine. So
Martin is being a sacrificial lamb.
I know there are.
So go for it.
A sacrificial lamb dinner.
Problem is there are 2 options I can think of, so I'm worried that I might say the wrong one. Britannia.
Royal Britannia.
Wrong.
Yeah. Damn it.
That's not it. That's not what I had.
So yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh goodness.
I have a backup option, which may also be wrong, but
oh god, that's what. Back up for that. Shit.
I guess if you, it's a tough one if you don't know. I guess I don't know how you.
Royal. Ooh.
I'm trying to think of a good clue.
Damn.
If I need it.
Yeah.
I am stumped. I would have gone for Britannia too.
Aha. I can buzz in.
Yeah.
Only if you're definitely stumped.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Go for a Robin.
Shit, partner.
Is it Albion?
It's Albion, yes.
Okay.
The fantasy land from the Fable franchise. It's, England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Martin. Sorry.
No, all good. Well done. Very good. You're still in the game.
So there's 5-2. Well done, Robin. You are in the game. Annoyingly. But Martin, you can still make this close.
It could still be a close. Could be a close one with 2 more points up. Yeah, up for grabs.
Question number 9. Which national park was established first? Was it A, Exmoor,
Right.
B, the Lake District, or C, the Peak District?
Oh.
I actually should have looked up the dates for this, shouldn't I?
Which one's established first out of the 3?
It's a flip of a very unusual coin.
Yeah. 3-sided coin. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's.
Genuinely. Yeah. Could be unusual.
I'm thinking what's going to be old at the Peak District or the Lake District. The Lake District seems very old. Oh goodness! Established first. What would have more credence?
That's what I'm thinking too.
The lakes. Despite the name, the lakes are actually steeper and probably more picturesque than most of the peaks.
Also,
I will say that
With the fell walking.
Yeah.
I will say that this national park was the first one in the UK.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Exmoor, though, it's old, isn't it? Exmoor.
Yeah.
The Moors.
Yeah.
The Moors murders. You can absolutely die in a moor.
Not no Saint people from Annapolis is motherfuckers from my own city.
Oh, sorry about the language there.
Go on, Robin.
I'm going to go with the Lake District.
It is not the Lake District, meaning it's now a 50-50 chance.
Exmoor sounds old, doesn't it? Exmoor.
It does sound.
Whereas the Peak District, very classical. Peak District.
Also, Exmoor could be good for shooting, and I feel like the people who would establish a national park are like, well, what can I benefit from this? Now, I don't know if there is shooting on Exmoor, just assuming though.
Well, I love the Peak District, and I hope it's the Peak District, so I'm going to go the Peak District.
It is the Peak District, yes.
Hey.
It was founded as the UK's first national park on the 17th of April 1951. I didn't know when national parks were brought in, but
a lot later than I thought.
That was a lot later than I originally thought it would be.
I think when people think of the UK, they think of it being quite kind of gardeny, don't they? They think of English country gardens and London, and then people go to the national parks, like especially the peaks and the lakes, and it's like, shit, there are actually some pretty steep hills and mountains around here.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive.
We got every kind of terrain you could think of.
Well,
except desert. Okay, I haven't got desert.
They're big hills, aren't they?
Yeah, some mountains. There's some mountains up
We've
here.
got mountains. We've
There are
got
big fells.
Ben Nevis.
We got some big
Snowdon.
We got some big ones up here.
You do. It's true.
That works on some of the ladies, Alex, but not me.
Okay, question number 10. That's 5-3.
Okey-dokey.
What is the cross between a donkey and a zebra known as?
Oh, that's Martin's got it.
Go on, Martin.
That would be a zonkey.
It's not a zonkey, no.
Oh, it's a Z-donk.
It is a Z-donk, which is as equally... Zonkey sounds so much better.
Zonkey
the reason
is
I put
way
this in,
better.
Z-donk.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a Z-donk before.
Or is it
the
a
reason I put
Z-donk?
this in is because it sounds so stupid. So what should we call that?
Z-donk.
A Z-donk.
Zonky makes
good.
so much more sense, doesn't it?
Zonky's
Should
great.
be zonky. Yeah.
It does, but that's good because I for some reason I hadn't heard of that before. And mainly because, when and where are donkeys and zebras mating?
Yeah. Well, why not take the last syllable of each one and make it a brachie?
A brachie.
Brachie, yeah.
Brachie,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice, yeah.
I like it.
There we go.
Well, thanks for
well,
that quiz, Alex.
Congratulations,
Sorry, Martin.
Robin.
Yeah.
No, still in it. And then I guess next week will be to see whether you can catch up, Robin.
Ooh, am I not hosting? Am I not doing the quiz next week?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know who's doing it. I feel like I'm done in ages. So
Oh, okay.
I
imagine
think it's
me.
Martin
Well, in
doing
that
it
case.
next week.
If it's me and Alex, the pressure's on. Oh, no.
Next week's the decider, I guess, then.
Yeah.
It will be, yeah.
Who can win?
So I'm going to have to come up with an extra question in the case of you being tied if Robin wins the quiz.
An extra
wouldn't-
question. One question is in it.
I
my
wouldn't tax
God.
yourself too much,
We're
Martin.
going to have to do a whole extra
just
quiz.
like-
I don't
Bonus
think it's going to be...
Flip a
I
coin.
don't think it'll come
Bonus round, yeah.
come round to that. I don't think that'll happen.
It could very easily come round to that, Robin. You are one
don't think-
you're one quiz
more.
away
One
from being
more.
exactly where I am now, and that scares me.
10 questions. Edinburgh.
I would like to be in Edinburgh.
Oh, well, you're both
Yeah,
welcome
that
to
would be
come
nice.
up and visit anytime.
We shall. See
But let me
you.
give me.
You won't
give me
know
some
when.
No,
you won't know
give me
when.
notice. Give me notice. At least 6 months notice.
6 months.
Well,
Oh, dear.
congratulations, Robin, on your quiz
Thank
victory,
you.
and I'll see you
Thank you,
next
Martin.
week,
Well done.
Robin.
Well played, Martin.
Very good.
Thank you, Alex, for a good
Thank you,
quiz.
Robin. Thank
that was
you.
an educational quiz.
Very good.
I learned.
Good. Well, I'm
was good.
glad you enjoyed it, and thank you both of you for indulging me this week with some big lies. And I hope you enjoyed it at home. I hope you learnt something new, and let us know if there are any other big lies that you want us to discuss in future podcasts. What else is there to discuss? We've filmed a little more interestings over on our Patreon. If you did want to check that out. If you just can't get enough of us rambling on, what do we speak about this
YouTube
week?
members as well have access to our Patreon videos.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're a member of the channel.
Patreon.com/, just interesting.
Ooh.
That's the one.
And
That's the aura,
there's
isn't it?
always the rare possibility that 1, 2, or all 3 of us might turn up on Twitch for a live stream at some point. So head over to twitch.tv/just_interesting to follow us and get an immediate, instantaneous notification for when we go live on Twitch.
Yes, we'll be doing some live podcasts in the future. I've been playing some Bloodborne, and Martin's been giving me moral support. And I
Kill him!
think we're going to be playing.
Don't die.
I think we're all going to be doing some terrible Rocket League at some point, and future plans as well. So it's well worth going over there and following us there as well.
And actually we'll be doing the podcast live again. We've done a couple of live shows.
Oh yeah,
and we'll be doing that again pretty soon.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So do head on over and follow.
I think we've plugged everything now, haven't we?
I think so.
We have indeed.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's it. Well, thank you everyone so much for listening to us this whole time. I hope you have a lovely week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.